diary number 8. This is going to be the January update. As I mentioned on my site, I'm now going to change to a once per month system. So the next one will be about roughly 30 days give or take from now, and that will be the February update. So what have we got to show? Well, I've been on break for a few weeks, so I've had plenty of time to work on this. So I've got a few cool things to show, and not sure if you can hear this, but I've been adding a few little sound effects here. For example, when you're changing your menu options, little things like that are kind of fun to add. Okay, first thing you might notice is that this guy here, this is your innkeeper sprite. So instead of having an up, down, left, right, 4 variations like a don't starve kind of system, we now just have one sprite which is flipped just mathematically, left or right, depending on which way he's going. And one of the reasons for doing this new system is so when we add animations later on, it's going to be a lot more simple to do. So you only have to do it once instead of having to make 4 different variations of that animation. And also he just, I took the opportunity to make him look a bit cooler. You can see he's got a little key on there and little boots and a bit of a stain here. He's a bit fat. There you go, it's kind of cool. And now we have a guest emerging who you haven't seen before. Also using this new kind of sprite system. And this is a soldier. He's looking a little bit haggard, a little bit ragged. Similar to commoners, he's going to be kind of like a low tier, kind of rough type who likes his rough drinks. But for now, I've enabled all guests to request all types of drinks that are available just for testing purposes. So what he's asked for just now, when he turned up, by the way, you notice that he actually kind of paused at the doorstep. The door opened, we had some audio play, he waits, then he comes in. So that's all new as well. But yeah, the drink that he just requested is a new drink type. So we have new drink types added. That's another big feature. Before we just had ale. He's a commoner, also a new sprite, you can see. So both of the existing sprites have been replaced. So he's looking a lot cooler as well. He's our commoner guy here. And he's going to come up and request something when he gets to the bar. He's looking nice and kind of grungy. And he's also requesting one of the new drinks. See how that kind of appears now above the head? My dog's getting a little bit excited. He's seen something. Alright, just here you can see these sprites. These are new sprites to represent the new drink type. And this is actually mead. So let's just go and have a look now over here in the cellar. I'm just going to crack that open. And you can see we have ale, which existed before. We've got wine. And now we also have down here mead. So that's the third type. Basically, the idea is that characters who've got more refinement, they're going to want to have a drink which is a bit nicer. So they're going to want to request, for example, drinks which are in line with how much money they've got and how picky they are. And to these guys, that'll be ale drinkers really. But so this guy, he's asked for an ale, and this guy now is asking for a seat. He's been standing at the bar for a while, and now he's not just asking for a drink. By the way, that's turned pink. He's also asking for a seat. So he's like, hey, I'd like to sit down, and by the way, where the hell is my drink that I asked for 2 minutes ago? So they're starting to get a bit pushy. So let's just give him one here. There we go. Give him a seat. That disappears too. And the idea is that, yeah, as you noticed, that went pink. If I waited, here we go here. If I waited even longer, that's going to go to red. And then if it's completely ignored, it's going to disappear, and that'll have a negative impact on happiness. So let's ignore these guys for a bit and actually use that just to test out this new system. Just going back to the cellar GUI here. You'll notice that there are qualities here now for drinks. So that's high quality wine. This one down here, that's average quality wine. That's poor quality ale, very poor quality ale, and this is some high quality mead. So that kind of thing, drink quality right now, doesn't really track to anything, but that's a foundation to later impact guests, how happy they are. So you can imagine that if you give a guest a drink, how pleased they'll be with that drink is going to depend on how drunk they are, how picky they are, anyway, that kind of thing. So if you give somebody who is really picky a low quality drink, they might be quite angry. But maybe they're really drunk and they don't notice, in which case you've just managed to save yourself some money. So that kind of judgment there of giving certain people some swill when you can get away with it, that could be a way to make a few dollars, you know, if you're not exactly a very moral innkeeper, which is kind of what we're going to push a bit for in this game. Going back to that GUI again there, something else, this is new. Previously, if I wanted to swap some barrels like this, I'd have to drag that out, drag that in, drag that over like this. Now I can just do one movement like this, like that, one movement. And you know, it's kind of obvious and simple thing, but it did take a few hours to actually put in. You've got a lot of variables you have to track, and because at this point it's now being carried, but I also have to remember what used to be there if I decide to swap it over. So that's going to be just more helpful, but also if all of the slots are filled up, it means you can still swap barrels, so that's new as well. While I'm behind the bar here, this guy would like some mead, and if I was to serve it to him before, from say over here, I might track to him around the bar and come around the side here because it's mathematically closer or whatever. But it makes more sense, doesn't it, that if you're behind the bar, you'd stay behind the bar when you're serving. So now if I'm behind the bar and I try to give a drink to any of these guys, I will track to somewhere opposite across from where they're standing. So here I'm going over here, and there you go. So something like that makes a lot more sense. You can see now that some of these guys are getting quite thirsty. For example, down here, that's red. You can see that also the chair's now pink. So these are slowly kind of building up. And something you'll see here is a little face. That's a replacement of the little black and white face I had before. And this is going to be modeled on the face of the character which it actually belongs to. And it's just then he went from a normal face to a kind of a frown, because the drink request that he had was ignored. And we're going to ignore the next request, and now he's going to start getting really pissed off, and that's going to be reflected in the face. And this guy as well, you can see that they have their own unique sprite, these soldiers as well. So each guest has their own kind of emotional sprite. So you can kind of get an idea here of the theme. It's about, of this month's update, making sure we have drink types. We've got all of our steins in. We've given the characters new skins, and then they've got needs, which are reflected up here in this new needs system. And that has, oh, there we go. Now he's quite annoyed. Sorry, we don't have the best service in this inn. I'll give you a little drink now, okay? There we go. And that's pretty much it. That's the bulk of it. There's a few other improvements and things I've made behind the scenes, but it was really just getting this whole framework in. And, oh, too late. It doesn't want that anymore. So, what I'm going to be working on for the next update, for the February update, will be to get this kind of framework now and start to add some interaction between these different discrete points. So let's say that we have, for example, these guests sitting next to each other. Now, at the moment, it doesn't really matter that he's angry, but imagine that him being angry and maybe being a bit drunk could make it more likely that he's going to get into a fight that he doesn't like so much. So, for example, this soldier, maybe they don't like each other very much, these different character types. And that's not usually a big difference, a big issue, because they don't hate each other, they just don't like each other that much. But if they're both angry and they're both drunk, you could imagine they might start fighting each other. So that's the kind of interaction you want to start having. And I'm going to add communication back in. I've taken that out for a while I work on it, but that'll be brought back in. So we want to see guest happiness actually doing something, and then the happiness of guests influencing how they interact amongst each other. So that'll be the February update. And if we're lucky, we might see a third character type, and then we'll start to differentiate between, drink quality and happiness based on how refined the guests are and that kind of thing. So that'll be what's coming up. Thank you very much for your support, for watching my videos, for following on Twitter and whatnot. And I look forward to keeping on with this throughout 2016, at just a pace of a video a month. And by the end of this year, it should start pretty cool, I think. Okay, see you in 4 weeks.